All right, we are live, so go ahead
We
and
are
set it
live.
off.
Hey. We are live. Yes, we are. Welcome to everyone. Welcome to UnRead with Nick and Brew, a product of the love of books from Lisa Temple, coming to you from upstate New York, Hudson Valley, where it's nice and cold outside. Jack Frost is here. And so we are buckling down. What a great time to be looking at some books when it's cold outside. This week, we are bringing to you two dynamic books, unread from our shelves. How do we know they're dynamic? Just because, there's a reason we picked them. But nonetheless, we are bringing these books to you. Thank you for everyone who tuned into our first couple of episodes. You can always go back and take a look at those. Those were pretty awesome. We did some offline talking about those things too. So if you want to get involved with that, please let us know. As always, you can contact us at Lisa Temple 1, or you can get Mr. Westbrooks at Mr. Westbrooks on Instagram. And on email, you can hit us at mawalisatemple@gmail.com if you have any questions, comments, or books you would like to submit. So this week, like every week, we are excited to be here. Nick, we got a really nice compliment. Somebody said you two were smiling so much you could tell y'all are book geeks, and it was just
Right.
and I was like, why, thank you. You know what I'm saying? And so they said they don't know who love books more. So I think that's really awesome. And for those with the inside scoop, know that Mr. Westbrooks is one of the only people who I kind of look at him as a little bit of competition when it comes to these books. But nonetheless, this week we are here to share with you some unread books again. We are excited. Mr. Westbrook says something awesome. I have something awesome. I just want to, before we jump in, because it kind of ties into the book that is why we started the book club in this unread series at Mount Lisa Temple. So I have been on the lecture circuit and things like that for about 20 years. And so back in the day when we made VCR tapes and and we gave in-person lectures, things were a little bit different. We didn't have, an opportunity to live stream and all of these different things like this. But one of the things that we did notice back then was that a lot of parents were coming out, but they weren't bringing their teenagers or their small children. Now, my children were always in the front row, which they will let you know that every Saturday was at the lecture hall, Temple of the Ancient Ones. We were getting it in, or down at Rutgers Library. So we were having they were having their indoctrination to that, what should I say, their initiation into the world of metaphysics and science at an early age. And so when we started Lisa Temple, we were always looking for ways to connect with the youth with the information that we're sharing. We all know that some of the books that we read, we can barely understand. Well, I can't speak for you, but I can speak for me. Some of this stuff, I'd be like, what am I even reading? And have to read it 4 or 5 times. So you can imagine for the seeking teenager, or even the seeking preteen, that some of this stuff would be really hard to understand. So because I worked with a lot of homeschoolers, we started to talk about ways where we can incorporate metaphysics and science into their curriculum every day. I was doing it with my children. And so what I was able to do was set up a model and show them what it was I was doing. And they were able to, take it and modify it to what their child needs or learned or what have you. So this book is a result of looking for books to be able to share with the youth, because I was looking for something simple. So with all that being said, ta-da! This is called Total Kabbalah by Maggy Whitehouse And let me let you know. So I'm gonna flip through, and as you can see, it's crazy colorful, right? One of the things we look for, because of, we're trying to get the children's attention. So this book, when I saw it, I was like, wow, I have a bunch of books on Kabbalah, but they're so intricate. It was hard for me to understand how to break it down and make it digestible for the youth. So I was seeking somebody who had already done that work, and I came across hers. Well, before I go into my little review of the things that made me buy the book, I want to just tell you a little bit about it, and about the author. Her name is Miss Whitehouse. She is in print, radio, television. She was a journalist, studied mystical Judaism and Christianity, particularly Bible metaphysics, since 1992. She is the author of 12 books on aspects of Judaism, Christianity, and faith, including 3 on Kabbalah. She is the editor of the holistic magazine Tree of Life. She also leads workshops and seminars in comparative religion, Old and New Testament Bible interpretation, and on the role of women in biblical history. She also has acted as a moderator and producer for the BBC's Religion and Spirituality Web, and she lives currently in the UK. And for those of you who know, my son is in the UK now. You can imagine I'm going to be seeking her out. But okay, so let's get into why I bought this book. Obviously, it's big, okay? And I'm thinking children, we were teaching children from the ages of like 10, up to, once they got around 18, we could let them go with the adults. But so 10 to about 18, we were trying to use things that caught their eye, caught their attention. So this book, like I said, is super colorful, lots of beautiful illustrations, and very simple to read in terms of the size of the letters and the choice of words and things like that, right? So, one of the things that I think people struggle with is that a lot of times they walking away from things like the church and the masjid and the synagogue and all these things. So they're like, well, what am I taking? I'm taking one religion and teaching my child another. Actually, no. And this book does a great job of teaching what the Kabbalah really is, and the general principles of it, the tools, learning the practical Kabbalah, learning about Jacob's ladder, the work of the Kabbalists, and rituals and prayers, and it teaches you how to make your own. And I thought that was very, very, very important, because we are tired of being told what to say, when to say it, and how to say it. If you need to, if you got something you want to say it direct. No intercessor needed. Correct. So it tells us that the Kabbalah was always intended to be a living tradition, and an exclusive form of study for men alone. Now, this is not an exclusive study. Not an exclusive study for men alone. And that in itself made it stand out different from a lot of the things that were being taught, because there was this hierarchy where men were the ones that were taught the spiritual knowledge, and the women were not. One of the beautiful things about this dates back quite some time and falls in line with oral traditions and things like that. So it's the same thing that our ancestors said, just in another language. And so I love here, I have some highlights here on some parts I thought were really, really important here. Jacob's ladder, I know adults that don't understand what Jacob's ladder is. So to have a book like this that was simple and able to break down larger concepts into small ones were something that we were looking for. And just like that, there's a lot of other places it talks about fairies and elves and physical health and things like that, drawing the tree of life. When I do new counseling sessions with clients, I have a picture that they color for me, and they color this picture. They're like, well, why am I coloring? Because it tells me a lot about what's going on in your psyche. The colors you use, the direction of the strokes that you make, whether you stay in the lines or not. All these things make a difference in, for me, as a person that's going to work with someone directly on spiritual and professional growth. These things help me to understand more about how they think, who they are, and things like that. And so I love the fact that this book had opportunities for people to do hands-on things. So in this exercise, what you are doing is you are drawing the kabbalah, right? The tree of life, excuse me. You're drawing a tree of life, right? And depending on how it comes out, now I don't know how well you can see it, but if you see here, this circle is a little bit small and crooked. This one is bigger. The one in the middle almost is perfect. This one is a little bit bigger than this one. This three are right here almost seem perfect. So what this would tell the person who was working with whichever person did this drawing, it would point out areas, because each one of those little bubbles, represent, a part of self. It would work out. It would tell you this is some place that needs attention. And as you go deeper into some of the other exercises, it does more of the same, telling you about what these different shapes, and when how pointy this is versus how a little bit more blunt this is, and how they made the circle so small instead of larger. All of these things make a difference. And so we thought this was a really great book. It introduces astrology. It talks about things like reincarnation. It talks about the tarot and the kabbalah and how they fall in line with each other. And so, as you can see, this was a book, while I say it's unread, it's a book that is never going to run out of uses. So you'll always be able to refer back to this. This is like a living, breathing opportunity to continue to grow. Because again, there are bunches of exercises in the back, ones that you can do over and over again. As a matter of fact, sometimes it suggests doing something 1 month and then waiting a couple of months and doing it again, seeing what the differences are. It really allows you to go inside self. And that is one of the things that we struggled with, trying to work with parents to talk to their children about and teach their children, because it was difficult for them. Sometimes some of these concepts are difficult for the parent to really understand. So to try to share it with the children, what we were finding was people weren't sharing anything. So now you done went and fixed yourself, but now you have this child who doesn't know anything. And so you're going to let them start off from scratch when they 25 or whatever, and they find it for themselves. It's like, no, if you share these seeds with them, they'll gravitate to what it is works for them. But this book was a great opportunity to share a little bit of everything with those children, and then they can be drawn to whatever it is will probably be part of their strengths and part of their spiritual gifts. So that is my offering for this week. So do you have any questions, comments, anything like that, Ms. Westbrooks?
Oh, definitely. I'm like, wow, right there. That book sounds amazing. That's one that I will be adding to my good reads to read list. I definitely got to get that one. That one, like you said, all of the color in there, which is not only engaging and attracting, for or attractive for the children, but also for the adults too. You know, especially during this day and age, the attention span and the engagement levels for the adults is not where it used to be. Since adults are participating in the microwavable society and social media and getting everything in bites. So yeah, it's that'll definitely be beneficial for all ages. And I like how you pointed out Jacob's Ladder, the book that I brought on my first offering on the first episode, how to understand the Bible. That goes into Jacob's Ladder as well, and the Kabbalah as well. I don't think I mentioned that during that first episode, so that brought me back to our first episode when I brought that offering. So yeah, I would definitely be putting that on my list and getting that. And you mentioned the astrology and the tarot as well. I think I was listening to a brother named Truth Seeker on YouTube, and he was interviewing another gentleman about the Kabbalah, and that was my first time hearing that the tarot is incorporated into the Kabbalah. I was like, oh wow. I was like, what? So yes, I definitely appreciate that. And it sounds like it's a very accessible way to approach Kabbalah also, because Kabbalah is very mystical and can be very complex. And there's and then of course there's different types of Jewish mysticism and Kabbalah and all of that. So I think this book sounds like a nice introductory to Kabbalah if you're first getting into it. Someone like myself, before I get into the more dense and the more complex books about Kabbalah, I think that that sounds like it'll make a great starting point for someone who's interested in first getting into it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I don't know how I forgot to mention that there is numerology and gematria in here as well.
Oh yeah, I would.
So,
Yeah, that's a given.
I know how much you love numerology, so I made sure to think about to want to point out that point to you. I was like, oh yeah, the numerology is in here too, and it's I feel you when you talk about how the attention span is so small, so tiny right now with people, and again, the old school that I come from, we read a lot of dense, no picture books. So yeah, for an adult as well to break it up with some activities that actually require me to do something, workbook style, that really worked for me. You know what I mean? Because it wasn't just reading and then trying to figure out how to apply it. It was like, nope, you're going to read it right now and I'm going to show you how to apply it. And I thought that was really, really cool. And I thought that would work well for the children. But what I ended up finding out that, and the reason why it never really became one of the main staple books that we used as a group was because we had decided that the parents, we were trying to bring the parents back into this process of working with their children. So we gifted the parents this book, and their duty was to go through it with their children. Some did, some didn't. Some children just picked it up on their own. But nonetheless, what I like to say is that yes, it is a great introduction for those just needing a little bit of idea of what something is before they deep dive all into it. You know what I mean? Because it may not be for you. Everything is not going to resonate with you. And I think that's where, people, find ways to argue. And I say find ways to argue because it's like, okay, if this is not for you, it's not for you. Just move on. You go study what works for you, and this person study what works for them. But this book is a great opportunity to look at how all these things can be tied together and used together for the greater good of you. So like I said, she has a couple other books that on Kabbalah, as well as some other topics, and they're a little bit more complex than these, but nonetheless still easy to read. She seems to be an author who is in tune with the fact that people have different learning styles. And you mentioned also Jacob's Ladder. I would love to see or even discuss what your first book, the Understanding the Bible, and this book says, and kind of talk about if they are kind of lining up, because it's just like what I said, one of those things where, so imagine the parent has the book that you have, and now they're trying to break down Jacob's Ladder for their kid. You know what I mean? Like, how do you break down something you barely understand yourself? But if you have a book that takes you step by step and explains it to you, you're learning, the child is learning, and it does suggest, let me just say, and I was going to say it at the end, and I will again, anybody interested in doing group studies with this, please let us know, because it suggests strongly that you study in groups. It suggests strongly that you study in groups of at least 3. And we know what that's all about. but that 1, 2, 3,
Yeah,
but nonetheless, great book, UnRead, Untapped. It'll be one of those books you go back to over and over again. You can write a curriculum just from this book here and have yourself a pretty good base to study and learn Kabbalah. So that's my offering on that.
That's beautiful. And yes, we will definitely discuss that Jacob's Ladder. I had to pull that book, off of the shelf and revisit those pages to see specifically what Mr. Hall said about Jacob's Ladder, because of course that book pulls together comparative religion and schools of thought and mythology, and Kabbalah is just one of them, so it'll be very interesting. And oh yeah, I expected the numerology to be in there too. Even with the tarot, there's numerology in tarot, and I discovered that in one of my numerology books. Maybe it might make a future episode of UnRead. that numerology book, and then gematria also, of course, and that's significant. Just outside of Kabbalah, just gematria in general is significant in this age of knowing and awareness, and all of the decoders are coming to the forefront, with all of the interesting things that are happening in the world.
I agree.
the decoders are
I agree. They are
being spotlighted. They're using the gematria to break down and interpret what's going on, in the world right now, whether it's in pop culture, politics, whatever it is. So yeah, I'll be very interested to get that book in my hands and flip through it and see the numerology, the gematria, the astrology, how everything just comes together. And when you ended off your offering, you kind of touched on the development of the person, and that's what it sounds like it's all about. It makes it very practical. It sounds like, for the development of the self and working to become the best version of yourself. So it sounds like something that's very useful, you know, not just something that's kind of spaced out. You know, it's something that's very tangible that you can use in your day-to-day life, in your day-to-day development, and becoming the best version of yourself. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And look, so it shouldn't be unread.
There you go. There you go.
It should be on the to read list, everyone. To read, to read. And
Oh
of
my.
course, we'll put the information. I know Nick already had the information down in there what books we were covering this week, because this is not our surprise week. Next week is though.
Next
So,
weekend. Yep.
I mean, what, 2
Or
weeks?
the week
In
after.
two
Yeah.
weeks,
Yep.
yes. In two
Yep. So
weeks. So it's
yeah.
listen. I think we're ready for you now. Unless
Yeah,
you
we
had
are ready
some,
for me.
I don't know if we got anybody asking any questions. I can't see that
Uh,
from this side, but
no, what I
if you have any more, or if you're ready to move forward, I am excited to see what you brought.
Oh yeah, yeah. We can go ahead and go to my offering. And I just and then when you mentioned when you first showed your book and you said you wasn't sure if everyone was able to see it, I you know I realized that I could actually blow it up a little bit by you know putting on the speaker view. So and I did it in the middle of your talk, and it seemed to give everyone a better view. So I'll do that for myself as I bring mine up. So
Awesome.
my offering is called the top 25 ways. Well, not but just top 25 ways in IUL can secure your financial future by Mark J. Quann. And let me go ahead and put it up on the full screen. Oh wait, let me put.
Wow.
I think I put you on the full screen. I got to put myself on the full screen. uh, how did I do that? I still did it. All right. Anyway, well, I did do it right. Did I do it right?
Yeah, I think when you're talking, it the
Okay.
speaker view is when you're talking. So whoever's
Okay. Yeah, I did do it right. Yeah, because I had to look at the YouTube. I had to look at the YouTube screen to make sure. All right. Okay. Here we go.
All right, awesome.
All right. Yeah. So yeah, there we go. Big view.
Yes.
All right. So so the backstory behind this book before I get into the description of it. Well, I'll start off by saying that this is an unread book for me. This is a book that I pulled off my shelf that I've had for some time, but I haven't cracked it open yet and read through it. The reason why I picked out this book in particular, it's not really so much thematic. I would say it's more so of me just liking to rotate my genres. So last week I brought the fiction. The week before that, well, not but the episode. The previous episode, I brought fiction. I brought a novel. The episode before that, I brought the religion, the mythology. Well, nonfiction, but religion, comparative religion, mythology, spirituality. So, I covered those two already. So I thought about what I had on my shelf that was both unread and that I didn't highlight already. And I haven't touched on finances yet. So I'll pull myself back to the gallery view. I'll put this down for a minute while I give some backstory and give a backdrop on picking out this financial book and how I got the book and things of that nature. So another one of the many projects that I work with and I work on is I work with a financial education company called DJ the Money Coach LLC. It is a branch of it's a branch of Duransburg International, and the system that that we use is called the 7 spheres of money. And the 7 spheres of money are estate planning, banking, investing, insurance, and there's two more that my my memory is escaping me right now, but insurance. So this book is covering a few of those 7 spheres of money. It's covering insurance, it's covering estate planning, and it's covering banking too, to an extent as well. So I got this book from my registered investment advisor, the one that wrote and prescribed my life insurance policy. So he actually gave me this book, not this past summer, but the summer before, or the spring before, spring of 2022, I believe it was. We had a team get together, down in Texas, down in Houston, and he was there also. He's from the Midwest, actually. He's in Chicago, but we all met up in Texas to have our team get together, and he had a bunch of copies of this book that he was distributing to the team. And I actually took out a term life insurance policy with him, but he gave me this book, and he discussed me potentially switching from the term life over to the IUL, which stands for Index Universal Life. So that's the backstory of how I got the book. Now, to read the blurb and tell you what the book says, and to tell you about the author, it says, from the author of Rich Man, Poor Bank and Top 10 Ways to Avoid Taxes. So those are the titles of the other books he's written. It says, in Mark's latest book, you can learn how and why Index Universal Life has become, or IUL for short, has become a new asset class, protecting investors from both taxes and market declines. Many American families are using IUL as a hedge against inflation, which is very rampant right now, rising taxes, and even how they grow their wealth during a recession, which we probably in right now. They haven't officially said we're in a recession, but when you look at what qualifies a recession, it sounds like we're in a recession. The right IUL can be used to build your personal tax-free family bank, to borrow for investing in real estate, stocks, and bonds, to expand your business and generate returns far greater than the majority of investors. An IUL can help grow your retirement accounts and help protect you from running out of money during your retirement years. The wealthy use other people's money, OPM, in all their investing, and how you can too. So he touches on all of that in this book, and it's not a thick book. It's only over a little over 100 pages, so it definitely looks like it's a quick read. I'm not familiar with the author. This is the first book that I will be reading from him. But just to give some background on the author, this is what it says about him. It says, Mark J. Quann grew up as the son of a bricklayer. He left Canada in 2000, arriving in California in pursuit of the American dream, and has spent more than 20 years as an entrepreneur and investor. Mark's first book, Rich Man, Poor Bank, teaches, and I quote, what the banks don't want you to know about money, end quote, and how using credit unions over mega banks can help you become debt-free while also helping strengthen your community. And that's like I mentioned, I haven't read any of his other other books, but I do appreciate that line right there because I do bank at a credit union instead of one of the major banks. But I would be curious to learn more about that and how and the benefits of using a credit union over a mega bank. But continuing on, it says his second book, Top 10 Ways to Avoid Taxes, A Guide to Wealth Accumulation, was released in 2018 and covers the secrets to building and passing wealth to heirs tax-free. It says Mark is the president of the, I think that's Remy, REMII, I guess, yeah, Remy Group Incorporated, which coaches business owners, investors, and entrepreneurs on how to grow and protect their assets while minimizing taxes. Mark is considered an out-of-the-box thinker in both business and investing, and he is a passionate advocate for financial education, and he lives in LA. And the publication year, this book actually came out in 2020. So yeah, it's a fairly new book. Just came out a couple of years ago, and this is something that I'm definitely looking forward to getting into. And just to give the folks a little bit of background on life insurance, and I'll preface that by saying I am not a licensed investment advisor. I am not giving you investment advice of any kind. I am just speaking from someone who desires to be educated in whatever I'm participating in. So as much as I can, I try to avoid just signing up for things without actually understanding them and looking into them. So I'm just speaking from the perspective of someone who's just understanding what I'm participating in and what I'm putting and investing my money into. So, like I mentioned, I currently have a term life insurance policy, and the term life insurance policy just pretty much means that it's for a specific amount of time, whether it's 10 years, 20 years, etc. That policy covers a specific time frame, and then once that time frame is up, you can either purchase another policy or you can, switch to a different type of a policy. And what I understand about IULs and how they differ from term life is that an IUL is a specific type of whole life insurance policy. Whole life insurance policies cover your entire lifetime instead of just, a specific time frame. What makes an IUL different from just a regular, universal life or whole life policy is that you can actually borrow against it. So with a term life, you would just use that for a death benefit. Your heirs or whoever your beneficiary is, they will receive that, that payout from the insurance company, in the matter of your transitioning or your passing. But with this, it serves as a death benefit. With the IUL serves as a death benefit, but you can also borrow against it for other types of purposes. That's just my understanding of IULs without having read the book. I know it's, that's just a very simplified explanation of it, but it looks like this book goes deeper into other ways that you could use an IUL, but besides those two purposes. So I will just go to the table of contents and just kind of highlight some of the other ideas and information that this book covers. And also in parentheses here, underneath the title, it says, and build a tax-free family bank. So just to go through the table of contents, I won't go through everything, but I'll just highlight some of the chapters that and parts of the book that stand out to me. So in part one, Introduction to IUL, Mr. Quann goes into the purpose of an IUL, why you would choose it and how it differs from other life insurance policies, such as whole life insurance, like I mentioned, term life insurance, universal life, variable universal life, and then this one, the index universal life. It also goes into how you can combine an index universal life with a term life policy. It also goes into long-term care, discusses long-term care. It discusses building a tax-free family bank. It goes into financing college education, college funding, and also paying off student loans. So apparently IUL can be useful in that sense as well. It's also useful for business planning. They have a section in here for business planning if you're an entrepreneur. Employee retention, buy-sell agreements, tax-free business banking. It goes into tax-free Social Security. There's a chapter on that. Let me see. It has top 10 questions to ask. And some of the questions include, what is the purpose of this IUL for me? Does the IUL have alternate loan options? What are my options for premium financing? And, much, much more, just in this 100-page book. So this is top 25 ways an IUL can secure your financial future by Mark J. Quann, along with Josh Shapiro, and how to build a tax-free family bank. So that is my offering for episode 3 of UnRead.
Yo, I learned so much just now, believe it or not.
Wow.
So I thank you for sharing that. I've never read that book, never heard of the author. Like you said, he's still kind of new. So I can't say that I've bought a lot of financial books in the past couple of years. So that's one that, I'm gonna have to put on my Goodreads list. We share that together. We share a Goodreads list. But nonetheless, I had heard of term life insurance before, and I even, knew a little bit about like long-term care because, working in nursing homes and things like that, I come across, you hear things, back and forth or whatever. And one of the things that you talked about was the business aspect of it. And many of us as business owners that may or may not have partners, like business partners, there needs to be language in there that talks about what happens if one of you transition, what happens with the business, because of course, you can imagine some of the scenarios, families coming in and swooping in and, relatives you never heard of showing up at the doorstep. So, something like that is definitely something that you would want to have in place. And I want to say that the other reason I really enjoy this offering, because for those of you who know, on Thursday nights we have a series called The Healing Chambers. It is resting now until spring. And so back when we did, I can't remember what month it was, because every month we kind of had a theme. We talked about chronic illness and in life insurance, and how it's difficult to get life insurance if you are diagnosed as chronically ill or what have you. And so a lot of times, those people are left without life insurance policies, or left to get life insurance policies that are really, 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 really high. So I would love to really tap into and see, if that's an option for, those kind of people who are dealing with chronic illness, and if they, if banking through a credit union, or or going through this type of process to help them to set up something for after a transition would be, something they could use to their benefit, because that you can imagine, people with chronic illness have gazillions of medical bills and all these different things. So anything that they would leave for their families to be, would need to be protected. So that's definitely something that's going to have to go on my reads list, so I can talk to the people in the chambers about it. And please feel free, y'all, to join us in the healing chambers in March, when we come out of hibernation season. And of course, we'll share more with you about that as we move closer. So one of the questions I had for you was, when you were with the gentleman who was handing out the books, had he talked about at all how he was using this process or what have you?
Not really. It was kind of in passing, type of thing. We were moving from one location or activity to the next, so we didn't really get a chance to speak in detail about it. But he did tell me that one thing that I did forget to mention about the premiums, for this type of insurance policy, the premiums are a bit higher. So he did advise me to, reach a certain threshold in my emergency fund, before I switch over to a policy, such as this. But he is an investor himself. He's an investor. He's he might be an entrepreneur himself as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's incorporated that into his business endeavors and his investing practices also. But I haven't spoke to him in a while, so it is about time for me to give him a call, because we need to discuss this policy and also discuss my will and power of attorney as well. So that's not something that's covered in this book, but it's just in the side that all of us should have wills, regardless of how young or how elderly we are. That's something else that we should have aside from life insurance. All of us should have life insurance, and all of us should have wills also. But yeah.
That's such a taboo topic in certain circles. Like, again, coming from the medical field, I've been in geriatric care for like over 20 years. And so, you, like I said, you hear things, you see things or whatever, and you'd be surprised how many people don't have a will, who, I don't know if you talk about trust in there, but things like that. I would be interested to know the differences in the premiums and how much higher they would be, versus the regular ones. But I will say that it's really been challenging, and I can say this even for myself, sometimes to think about after you transition. So all these things you should leave in place before you transition, and having a will and life insurance and all these things, and knowing what's going to go where, and that's really, really important. So sharing that book, it brings us to a place of awareness, like, hey, I need to maybe take a look into not just the things that are in that book, but all of it as a whole. So thank you so much for sharing that one. And I'd be interested to also see what other offerings that author has. You mentioned two other books, and see what topics those really cover and how they all tie together, if at all. And use them to well, make them as a suggestion to people, as a starting point, maybe, as to where they can start to line up their you know next steps in life. So
Indeed.
really, really, really interesting. But like I said, it's such a taboo topic. It's hard to get people to even talk about,
Yeah,
life insurance
yeah,
and
yeah,
things
yeah.
like that.
It is. It is. My when I'm at my parents' house, they have cable, and I like to watch when I'm there. I like to watch daytime TV and watch watch their shows and people's grandparents shows. So you get a lot of those commercials, uh, those life insurance commercials, and it's great that they have they even have offerings for folks who have pre-existing medical medical conditions, but it's just all a matter of doing your due diligence and doing your research and making sure you're getting the best value for what you're investing into it, because I found that I wasn't initially, prior to getting advisement from Melvin, my registered investment advisor, and DJ, the money coach, prior to getting their assistance and their advisement. I was actually overpaying. I was actually overpaying and underinsured for my term policy that I had initially. And
Wow.
yeah, for the amount of coverage that I was getting, I was paying too much for it. But I guess it was a trade-off, because for that policy I didn't have to do a medical exam. I just had to sign
Wow.
up for it. But when they looked at my policy, they're like, wait a minute, this is only a $100,000 policy, and you're paying like $40 a month for it. And then once they got me into another policy, I saw the difference. I was like, whoa, now I'm in a $500,000 policy, and I'm paying $60 a month for it. So
Wow.
yeah, so
What
that
a what
yeah,
a difference. It just
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
shows how important it is to, talk to these people who specialize in these different areas. Many of us, because of where we come from, we don't think we need a money coach. But if you know who you are and you working on becoming the best version of yourself, you're gonna need a money coach, because abundance is gonna pour all over you. I say, you know what
absolutely.
I mean? So um, you know, uh, just the fact that they were able to jump in and see that, and it kind of makes sense. If I'm going to cover something and I didn't inspect it first, I'm gonna charge you extra. You know what I mean? I wonder if you had gotten, like, went through the whole process of a physical and all that stuff like that, what the difference would have been in cost. You know what I
Right,
mean? I
right,
wonder
yeah,
what the
yeah,
difference would have been in cost. But I mean, $500,000 policy, $60. I mean, you can't
yeah, yeah,
beat
yeah,
that.
a month, yeah, a month. So that's so it's
And for how you said that's term like this, so how many years?
I believe this one. I have to double check it, but it's either 20 or 30. It's
Okay, so it's a substantial amount of time.
it
Okay.
is. Yeah, yeah, it
Oh,
is definitely.
okay.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I don't even think the company that I had prior to that, I don't even think they offered anything like that, or offered a plan that required a medical exam.
Mm.
So yeah, yeah. So I changed companies completely. I went from one company to another. So yeah, yeah. It's definitely important. It's definitely an investment, because funerals are expensive. Funerals, burials, or you know, however you go about it. They're, you know, they're expensive. They're expensive. So
Yeah. Yes, yes. And the last thing a person should be worrying about when one of their loved ones transitions is about how they're going to pay for
how
it.
you gonna pay
And
for
that
it? Exactly.
happens in our community so much. You
Yeah.
know, may Allah protect us from that. I mean, but I did want to ask you in your flipping through the book, because I know this is an unread.
Mhm.
Are there sections that show you how to work out equations or kind of start putting you in the direction of what you should be looking for yourself, or does it just, is it just a read like technical, just allowing you to then maybe reach out to someone to give you more information?
That is a good question. Let me see. Well, we're about to find out now. So it might be a little bit of both because I do see some charts in here.
Okay.
So they have some charts to visualize how. Let me see what I'm on the page right now. What chart is this showing? All right, so this looks like it's from the part one, the introduction to the IUL.
Mm.
Look at floor zero. Okay. So I think this one is showing you the projections for on the investment side. This chart right here,
Okay.
you know. So
Mm.
it let's see, from letter A it says, oh, that's also what I forgot to mention about this too. Another thing that about the index universal life is that not only can you borrow against it, but it's also tied to the stock market too. So
Oh,
yeah, it is. Yep, yeah. So yeah, I forgot
that's
to mention that
some
also.
that's a field I know jack about. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
so
I know about penny stocks from back in the day when my
right,
uncle used to work for Merrill Lynch, but I don't know much other than that. My mother
right.
was the accountant. I went to the medical field.
There you go. There you go. You
I
know, and I
left the
went
numbers to the numbers people, you
right,
know.
and I went into media and I went into education. So, you know, it's but it's something that it's something that I know a little bit about because I've studied a little bit, dabbled in it a little bit. I actually want to get back into that, you know, just as another form of income, you know, to supplement, you know, what I'm doing full time. So this is kind of touching on the stock market aspect of it. So I don't see any equations, but you can they kind of do the math for you, you know, with these projections and show you that based on a $1,000 investment, you know, how your investment can grow, you know, over time and how much return you can get over time based on based on a 10% gain, you know, how much you can make year after year after year
Okay.
with, you know, with this policy and having it tied to you know, to the financial markets. So this seems to be more of a you know, the what, the who, what, where, when, and how of it all,
Right.
like a 101 type of book. It doesn't
Okay.
really get into, doesn't seem like it gets into any oh, it got the rule of 72 in here. That's
Mm-hmm.
something that uh that I learned about from the seven spheres of money.
Okay.
Yeah,
You see, seeing the connection, seeing the connection.
yeah, for sure. For sure. But yeah, I'm not too sure if they really get into the into too much of the technical aspects of how to calculate everything, but I'm sure it does go into, how to go about choosing, the right plan and
Right.
how to do the research. So it looks like a book that the lay, that a lay person can access. Just
Right.
briefly flipping through it and just looking at the length of it, it definitely looks like something that's very accessible to, the general reading population, reading audience.
Right. Right. That's awesome. Like I said, finances is something well, I'll put it like this. Now you see a lot more people talking about finances and legacy and wealth and all those kind of things like that. Like I said, my mom was an accountant, and so she, was very much into all of that stuff like that. But it wasn't like she was directly teaching us. Like we learned how to open a bank account. We learned, how to open a savings account and all these different little things like that. But things like I said, like life insurance and long-term disability and trust and land and all these different things like that. We very much came from the world of children to be seen and not to be heard. So we didn't talk they didn't tell us about that kind of stuff, so we were pretty ignorant when it came to finances unless that was something you went out and sought on your own.
Mhm.
So it's nice to see that books are available that are so accessible that the layperson can pick it up no matter what age and still feel like they're able to recoup what it is that they worked really hard for, because you don't want your money to just go to the wind when you transition. So knowing how you can not only take the time now to make sure that's done the way that you wanted to, you get the best deal, the best outcome. Look at what they done for you. They took you from $100,000 policy to $500,000 policy, for $20 more. You know what I mean? So unless you kind of go out there and seek these kind of things, you won't even know that they're available. So thank you for sharing that book. That
Right,
goes
right.
on the list.
Yes,
That goes
yes,
on the
yes, and
list.
yes. And as a side
So,
note, my premium would have been even lower if my blood pressure was a little elevated during that exam. So my premium would have been even lower if my blood pressure was at the the level it was supposed to be at.
oh
But
man.
yeah, but what it is about, also about it being a taboo topic, especially with folks that look like us, and then folks in the quote unquote conscious community or spiritual community, is that we also have a complicated relationship with money too, and well, not so much with money itself, but with money, but also with people bringing information to us about money, because
Oh
we've
yeah.
been we've been so used to people scamming and investing in these ideas, and people run off with the money, or not getting the results that we thought we were going to get, and that plays a big part into it as well when it comes to us. I mean, because we've seen a lot of that, not
Absolutely.
and not just like recently, like just decade to decade,
Historically.
historically. So it's
It's so interesting you said that, because just yesterday eve we were talking about fear, and how everyone talks about false evidence appearing real, da 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 da. And I'm like, some fear is based in events that have happened to people in their life. So if you took your last $1,000 and invested it with Tyrone, and he told you this was going to help you take care of your 4 kids and your wife, and then he run off with the money. I mean, So the next time somebody asks him to invest, there would be fear there. There would be apprehension there because he been scammed once. Like, what's to stop him from being scammed again? You know, and the sad part is that sometimes it's somebody you know. And that part really hurts because it leaves a bigger scar, you know, in terms of moving forward, because we already, you know, people like us already know that we don't have a lot of allies, you know, when it comes to some of the things that we need to make our lives be the quality that we want. So now we start to see people that look like us in these spaces, and we thinking, oh, you know, there's somebody that looks like me. They understand my struggle. They would never blah, blah, blah to the end of that sentence. Oh, yeah, they would. You know what I mean? Oh, yeah, they would. And it's unfortunate, but it's true. And it's, you know, it's not just in the finances, it's in everything. And, you know, yeah, this is why we work on getting better inside ourselves so we can be a better service to the world and not feel the need to scam. But yes, a very complicated relationship with finances and things like that. And let's not forget that we all, many of us still suffer from the lack, the you know, the idea of lack. You know, the energy and spirit of lack, you know, we're raised with it, you know, and this is why they hold on to everything so tight, because, you know, they work from this place of lack, and it's like, you know, this place of poverty, and, you know, you're basically, you know, you basically, you can see how, when you hear these stories about somebody's great grandmother leaving a piece of land, and then all the kids get together and they fight over it and they take it and they destroy it and they sell it. It's like they had no idea the gold mine they had they just been able to have someone guide them in the right way, or a document in place that said this is what should happen, because this is how many of us have ended up with nothing. And I can say that happened in my family. You know, that happened in my family.
Yeah, and that's also the immediate gratification too. You know, the immediate gratification of oh, let's just sell it so we can get the cash real quick. You know,
right.
You know,
right, because you know a lot of them came from the world as cash is king. You know, so that's the world they came from. So they were working from that place. But what an amazing book! What a great offering! And you know, definitely a conversation starter. So many things that you can ask. You know, just, you know, from the things you shared about the book so far. You know, I can think of so many questions, and I'm looking forward to reading that one, and maybe even, you know, into the other two that he wrote as well. So that is a great find. So do we have any questions from anybody there? I can't tell. I don't know if anybody has any questions for Nick.
Yeah, no questions.
Okay.
Nothing chat, but I'll just say this one more thing, you know, just to you know, emphasize my excitement for reading this book, and you know, getting into it at some point. But just going off of what you said just a few moments ago about the mindset, another interesting idea that came to mind, and this kind of connects to your offering with the Kabbalah book, is you know, how do we marry the spiritual or metaphysical with the material? And you know, because that's another interesting thing too, because if you know, you might have someone who's highly spiritual, or someone that's you know, very into law of attraction, you know, type of mindsets, and you know, they might just say, well, all you need is that, and everything's just gonna come. And then
Right.
you have folks on the other extreme that, they're all into the material world, but they don't have a spiritual foundation either. So, an interesting conversation would be the interaction or the balance between the two. Knowing about finances and having a financial education and having these structures in place, such as life insurance, such as wills, trusts, et cetera, and the spiritual part of it of just attracting materials from using your mental power and meditation and things of that nature, and how and if there's a should we be using both? Should it be using one a little bit more than the other? That would be an interesting conversation that I would like to see some people, group of folks come to the table to discuss.
Oh man, you just sparked us something else. This is why we have these talks about these. But so how a lot of indoctrination from our youth talked about money being the root of all evil. So especially for people like that who then move into spirituality, they look at money as this, oh, you doing this just for money, da da da. So I think a great starting point would be to understand what money really is. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So if you understand what money really is, tying the spiritual in the physical aspect of it, the manifestation aspect of it would look a little bit different, because you understand that life insurance policy is money, not because it pays out in fiat, but because it's a resource. Like you said, mm-hmm. You can borrow against it. You can do different things with it. So looking at it in that respect, learning how to really know the difference between what a coin dollar is versus real true currency. You know what I'm saying? Real true energy, exchange in terms of resources. I think that would be some place to go too, because I grew up, and one of my favorite groups was Poor Righteous Teachers, and so we poor, we righteous, but we teachers and that. No. You know what I'm saying? You have to have resources in order to be able to do the things that you want to do in your community. And I was, that was a hard lesson for me, and that was one of the things that, if I had to say, kept abundance in from me, was the fact that I equated this fiat dollar with trouble, like, oh man, more money, more problems. You know what I'm saying? But it doesn't have to be, if you know what to do with it and how to, move and navigate with it. And not only that, truly what it really is.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So yeah, this was I think this was an amazing conversation, two amazing authors. I think we ready to go ahead and
wrap it on up.
Wrap it up. Yeah.
All right. Well, you know what? Let's do it like this. Thank you for everybody for viewing us live, and for those who will watch after. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comment section in the YouTube video, or send them to either of our DMs. We have our Instagram handles right there under our names. And also you can always email the temple directly, mawalisatemple at gmail.com. My book tonight was Total Kabbalah by Maggy Whitehouse. Great read for the whole family. A way to be able to sit down and study Kabbalah from the ages of 6 to 106. You know what I mean? So this is my UnRead for this week. I am your sister Rue. Nick, you can take us on out.
Yep, and I'm Nick. And my offering for this episode was top 25 ways an IUL can secure your financial future and build a tax-free family bank by Mark J. Quann, along with Josh Shapiro. So again, thank you. Thank you for tuning in. And may the source, may the spirit of the ancestors, or whatever entity that you know personally, may they bless you and protect you.
That's it.
May they smile upon you and be gracious to you. May they show you favor and give you peace.
That's
Peace.
it.